So Zani released yesterday, and oh boy have I been having fun with her. This character is way more fun than I anticipated her being, but there is still a lot of aspects within her kit that simply irk me the wrong way, and I really wanted to talk about them. Now, I want to preface this video by saying this video is not about Zani's character design, it is not about her animation design, and it's not about her sound design. It's about her game design, aka how her kit balances within the game, and how it functions to achieve its goal. So I'm trying to say here, yes, Zani looks incredible, feels incredible, sounds incredible, but there is just some details within how her kit functions that make me annoyed, so I wanted to talk about those in this video. First of all, Zani is incredibly selfish. Now, what do I mean by calling Zani selfish? Well, what I mean with that is that Zani completely despises it when you try to do literally anything except hypercarry her. This character had literally every single tool within her kit to be a good dual carry or to be a good sub DPS, but they said, nah, what if we just didn't? Which brings me to the first thing that kind of annoyed me about Zani's kit, which is her outro skill. Sure, her outro skill accomplishes one thing very well, which is it does a truckload of damage. I've seen this thing do like 300,000. This outro skill is no joke, but it has this little bitty extra text near the end that is kind of just ignored by the game for some reason. Damage dealt to targets with heliacal embers will have this damage amplified by 20%. Yep, Zani has a supportive section in her outro skill. 20% damage amplification is not the greatest, but it's definitely a good bonus to have, especially in some very specific teams. So now, why on God's green earth is there not a single Spectro carry that is capable of utilizing this outro skill effectively? And why is Zani not capable of using it herself? What is the point of this damage amplification? Kuro themselves have said that Zani's premium team, the thing you're supposed to be playing, is her alongside Confession, Phoebe, and Shorekeeper. This is also the best casual team, and honestly, it's just the best Zani team. So, look at these characters, right? Zani, who is the main DPS and literally cannot use the buff from this outro skill. Phoebe, who does very little amount of talent damage in her Confession mode, among the lowest of limited 5 stars. And then there is Shorekeeper, a character who also does a very small amount of damage. Why are we buffing Shorekeeper and Confession Phoebe exactly? What is the point of giving her supportive effects within her outro skill when no one in her team is capable of using it effectively? It's just really strange to me. You can say, oh, Shorekeeper's intro skill does good damage. Does it really? It's not gonna even compare to the amount of damage Zani is doing in the team. And while Phoebe is doing more damage than Shorekeeper by far, it is not exactly impressive either. It's not something I would consider worth buffing. And what irks me even more about this outro skill is the fact that it could have been utilized perfectly with one small change. And this one small change might be the thing that annoys me the most about Zani, which is the fact that she completely disables Absolution Phoebe thanks to her heliacal embers. Yep, you heard that right. Because Zani converts all Spectrofrazzle into heliacal embers, Absolution Phoebe straight up doesn't work. Let's go! You see, heavy attack Starflash in Absolution requires Spectrofrazzle to be applied to the enemy to have its damage amplified by 256%. This means that if the enemy does not have Frazzle on them, this Starflash is not doing damage, bro. Do not expect Starflash to be relevant in any way unless there is that Frazzle on the enemy. But because Zani converts all Frazzle stacks into heliacal embers, and heliacal embers are separate from Spectrofrazzle, guess who's not getting that damage amplification? Yep, DPS Phoebe just doesn't work when Zani is in the team, which is insanely cringe, because I've talked about this in the previous segment. Zani has a supportive outro skill. Why is she incapable of buffing the character who would be capable of using her Ultra skill the best? This is just two parts of Zani's kit looking at each other and just throwing rocks at each other because they hate each other. Why is she capable of supporting her other teammates, and then the one character who is best capable of using this buff literally gets completely disabled by another part of her kit? Now, I fully acknowledge that if you are trying to run DPS Phoebe with Zani, it wouldn't even be that good in the first place, because Zani's rotation is a long one, and you can't exactly make it very short. So, why is it such a big deal if Zani doesn't work with DPS Phoebe? Well, let me introduce you to dual carry teams. Quickswap even. Zani has a lot of good quickswap windows in her kit actually. She has them during all her heavy slashes, specifically Nightfall. She has it during her enhanced skill outside of her ultimate. So honestly, Zani and Phoebe quickswap would have been an excellent team, and probably one of the most fun in the entire game. But it got slashed in half, because Kuro decided to gimp Absolution Phoebe for no good reason other than they felt like it. Now, I understand that they're trying to get you to play Confession, but the absolute worst way to get someone to play Confession Phoebe is to just make the other playstyle unusable. That might be the laziest way to design a character in the entire universe. You're simply restricting the most creative and skilled part of your player base for the sheer purpose of selling a character that you could have just sold with this other playstyle. It's not like Absolution Phoebe and Zani dual carry would have decreased your sales. You're using Phoebe with Zani in both teams. You would have made the exact same amount of money. The only difference is that your player base would have been able to have more fun with your characters. So this decision really just irks me. And then the final point I wanted to talk about for things that just kind of upset me about how Zani's kit works. Why is Zani's rotation dependent on the amount of Spectrofrazzle your teammates apply? Like, this is not just a damage increase that you're getting from your Spectrofrazzle application. You see, Zani consumes Blaze when she uses her heavy slashes in her ultimate form. How do you generate Blaze? Well, you need your teammates to apply Spectrofrazzle, which then gets converted to Heliacal Embers, and this gives Zani Blaze. But now tell me why exactly this is more than just a tool to increase your damage? I understand when your Forte gauge gives you a damage increase. That's what Jinchi does with her Forte bar in coordinate attacks. However, it's not the same for Zani, because she actively has to consume Blaze to cast her heavy slashes in the first place. So if you don't have enough Frazzle application, you simply cannot use the heavy slashes that are by far the majority of Zani's damage output. This would have been completely fine if there was a 4-star or at least a free-to-play alternative for people who wanted to apply Spectrofrazzle so that Zani could do her entire rotation. But this isn't a thing. You have to use Spectra Rover if you're not using Phoebe or in the future Shakona. But Rover applies literally half the amount of Frazzle that Phoebe or Shakona does. So that means that at the end of the day, you're not able to use as many heavy slashes. I feel like a character's rotation should not be dependent on their teammates. And I'm not talking about your team rotation, just the character's individual course of actions. If a character is unable to repeat the same rotation in multiple different teams, I feel like that's just a questionable decision. At this point, it's not even about damage output anymore. And if we did start talking about damage output, Blaze is a massive generator of damage due to the damage buffs it gives to Heavy Slash Nightfall. This is, in my opinion, more than enough incentive to pull for a 5-star character, just for that extra bit of Blaze to buff your Nightfall damage. But now you're just straight up not able to do the same amount of Heavy Slashes if you just don't have that Phoebe or Shakona, which I think is an incredibly strange decision. I understand they wanted you to play Phoebe with Zani. That's completely fine with me. But Phoebe already gives so much damage buffing. Do we really have to log her rotation behind a premium Spectrofrazzle applier? I don't think so. But what are your opinions on Zani's kit? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description. I'm pretty active in there, so if you have any questions, that's going to be the best place to ask me. But that'll be all from me. Peace.